Thank you, Barry. And sharing. Okay. Look at that. All right, I did start it, just nothing fancy on there. Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is the Housing, Land Use and Zoning meeting for Community Board 9. You are in the right place if that's where you intended to be. Welcome. It is now 6:35 and we do not have a quorum, I don't believe. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 2 people who I know are not going to be here.
Divine Essence White is
Yes.
no longer on the board.
Officially not. Okay.
Right.
Thank you, Barry.
So that brings us to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 4 is a quorum, so we're short 1.
3, we're short 1. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. The business of the board requires that we have a quorum to do action items and various voting. And so currently we have 3, so we can call it to attention, but not officially to order. That said, do I have my trusty minute taker on my left? Okay. Clayton is taking the minutes. We are recording. To be aware, and currently this is the agenda I have. I don't have any presentations at the moment. Did anyone have anything that I missed? And I'll ask our guests, are you here on any particular agenda item? Or?
Well, I was curious about what you folks do.
Oh, great. Okay, well then you're in the right place. We'll talk more about that.
And I have a building that I'm curious about.
Okay. All right. We'll get you in here in a little bit. Since we don't have any presentations, we can probably just yeah. All right, very good. Then we are calling to attention. And I believe Clayton sent out the minutes already yesterday. I didn't have a chance to look yet, Clayton, but thank you. We will take a look. Since we can't adopt them anyway, we'll move it forward to next time unless we get someone else, some more members tonight. The only 2 members that are not here that I am expecting are Juan and Annette. Liz is excused. Ilana sent regrets. She's not feeling well. So we'll see. All right. That said, make some quick introductions. Officially welcome. My name is Signe Mortensen. I live in this area for about 15, 16 years now. Been on the community board, I think 12 of those. I think that's right. And we're glad to have you here. I'm the co-chair of Housing, Land Use and Zoning. My other co-chair is not here tonight, but I'm sure she sends her regards. That's Liz Waitakis. And let's go through introductions. We don't have that many people here in person. So Barry is on the committee. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Barry Weinberg. I've lived in West Harlem for about 17 years now. And I am a member of this committee. I chair the strategic planning committee, and I am first vice chair of the full board.
Thank you, Barry. And Clayton to my left here.
I'm Clayton. I'm also a CB9 member. Haven't been on the board quite as long. I've lived in the neighborhood for 6 years, and I'm on the community board for 2 years.
Thank you, Clayton. Who do we have online? Anyone from the board online? I don't think so. No. All right. Well, we have a small group tonight, so we might as well just quickly go around and say hello. Just tell us your name, and if you're with a particular organization or city agency, let us know that. Otherwise, welcome and tell us your name. I'll start in the room here.
I'm Susan Paletti and I live on 141st Street.
Wonderful.
I'm Louis LaFonde and I live with her.
Very good.
My name is Chris Lopez. I'm a born and raised Morningside Heights resident, currently facing eviction after the death of my grandma since my landlord does not want to uphold my rightful tenant possession claim.
Oh.
And I'm
Glad you're
also a
here.
co-captain of Harlem Run.
And what was your first name again?
Christina.
Christina.
Wait, we can talk about that and can talk more after. And then online here, let's see who we have. I see Christy. You want to just say hello to us all?
Yes, good evening. I'm Christy Armfield. I live within the area. I've been living in Harlem for like 53 years now.
Wonderful. And Christy, I saw your note earlier. Are you on our mailing list? If not, I'll add your email that you sent.
Yes, I am. But I
Okay.
had called because I didn't see the link, and usually I get the link like a day before, so I had called and
Yeah, it went out on
said
the
person
8th, but one didn't come today until late. So
right.
thanks, Christy.
All right.
All right, very Katie, Kate Glynn.
Hi, yeah, I live in Hamilton Heights. I've just been here for about 4 years. I'm on the board of a HDFC co-op here, and so I'm just really interested in hearing about what this committee does.
Yep. HDFCs are a big part for us because we've got the biggest concentration, and we can talk more about that in a little bit. Nina, hi Nina.
Oh, hi. I'm Nina Bernstein. I live in an HDFC co-op on Fort Washington Avenue and 159th Street.
And Jacqueline Siegel.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline. I'm a social work student at Columbia University, and I just wanted to attend a community board meeting to learn more about the neighborhood that I go to school in.
And I see Juan has joined us. I'll let him settle in, and then that will give us a quorum. I see Mel Crooks. Would you like to say hello to us, Mel?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Mel Crooks. I'm the chair of the Board of Trustees for the Compton Avenue Baptist Church on Compton Avenue and 45th Street. My understanding was I heard that comment was on the agenda last meeting and no one was here to represent us. So this is my first time. So I'm looking forward to attending more meetings.
Wonderful. Glad to have you here.
Yes, good to have you, Mr. Brooks.
Yes.
Thank you. I see Audrey on the line. Audrey, say hello.
Hi, everyone. My name is Audrey Walks. I'm at the Department of City Planning, and I work with Community Board 9 and 12.
Wonderful. And Juan, hello. You're the last one, and you make a quorum. Thank you. Just say hello.
Hi.
Hi. Juan's on our committee. He's on the board as well. All right, so those are the introductions. And since we have a couple of new folks on the line and in the room, your community board, this is your community board. We all work together. The community board is a body of 50 volunteers who are appointed by either the Manhattan Borough President or your local community council member. The 50 of us are broken up into various committees. This happens to be the Housing, Land Use and Zoning. So that we can work on specific topics in our neighborhood. We are what I like to call the sounding board or the megaphone for our community. So you come to us, you tell us what your concerns are and what your interests are, and we take that information, put it into what we would put into a letter of support or a resolution that then goes to our elected officials and helps build an argument of what we need in our neighborhood from a legislative side, as well as just making sure our elected officials understand what we need, and also helping each other understand how our city government works. We are what I call the grassroots level of city government, which is the most important. That's actually the top, I consider it, right? So that's what we do. We're a very open forum. Come make your voice heard, and we will do our best to amplify that. So that's what we do. All right, so now that we officially have Juan here, I want to do an official call to order at 6:43. And adopting of the agenda, which I do happen to have the screen here. I don't have any, is there any additions to the agenda amendments? Perhaps
under old
Mr.
business,
Yes.
I would just add 1727 Amsterdam. There's an update.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna put it here. Okay, very good. Any other amendments to the agenda? Anyone online? And we'll get to both of you for a little bit more on your concerns in a minute here.
Tiffany has a deadline for tomorrow for.
I don't think.
Oh, we can't
that
talk
here,
about
though.
that here. We can talk about it after the meeting, but
Yeah.
we are.
For it's business of the community, so.
It is.
Yeah, we
but not-
can. We can't
We can
talk about candidates,
certain things.
certain things,
Sorry.
but we absolutely can talk about that.
Yes.
All right, and then the minutes, for those on the committee, Clayton did send those out. I didn't have a chance to look, and I think we probably should wait till next time, but we'll forward that over to next. We did introductions, no presentations, or announcements that I know of. No. Okay, other than I have a plant sale on my block every year. I can talk about that because it's important, and beautifying our neighborhood is important. 150th Street, we do a block plant sale every year. So if you're interested, shoot me a note in the chat or let me know and I'll give you a little flyer.
I also have a development on 1763 Amsterdam. I think you got that email too, right?
I think I just saw it as I was coming here. 63 Amsterdam. So we'll do those two updates. And under new business, we'll just have our guests that have a couple of things to talk about to join us. And all right, let's continue forward. So new business discussions to our guests. Please tell us what building you're interested in, and
It's
you're our
the
eyes and ears.
other end of 141st block. What is called the Alumni House.
Okay.
It's either 280 Convent or it's 451, 141, depending on the building department has both.
Say that again, just so I can.
280 Convent or 451 West 141st Street.
451 West.
And there was a recent announcement that Representative I'm not sure how. Espaillat has gotten $4 million to develop the building into some sort of a training center. And I would like to know what you know about that. And if there's any
Okay.
details.
It's not ringing a bell right this moment. Barry, any ring?
I know the I was not informed of or tracking the announcement about funding. I do know that was intended to be at first the School of like Public Affairs or
It was
like
going to be Colin Powell Center 10 years ago.
it was going to be Rangel Center for Civic Engagement, then Powell Center for something, and now it sounds like it would be the Charlie Rangel Center for Workforce Development. There is a major issue, which is the last time they wanted to redevelop this building, they wanted to build like a 4-foot blank wall on the northern edge of the lot behind the gate on 141st for an elevator. I believe that there are ADA and or fire considerations that make the building difficult to work with. So, and to do that, they circumvented the community board. This was actually kind of rare instance of bad behavior by City College. They told LPC that they tried getting a hold of us, but they couldn't, but they didn't come to us. Like, they know how to find us. We're not a difficult, like,
It's
we
hard
work
to
with
find
them
us when it's
closely.
convenient.
Right, we work with them very closely, they know how to find us. But it does not look like, I'm trying to see if there are any permits pulled.
Got it.
What was the other?
It may be early for that. I was looking at building also today, and there's the old plans for the thing they wanted to hang on the side of the building. But I didn't see anything current.
What was the number on 141st Street again?
451.
451. Yeah, here it is. Let me just grab the bin. Here's the bin. I've got 2 bins. It is landmarks, job filings, no filings, you are correct. But let me check BIS, because sometimes the old stuff is still. Oh, this is BIS, excellent.
Came prepared, thank you.
And you said, so there isn't an active filing. There are 17 jobs in filings. And I think one question is, have those jobs and filings, have they,
I think that's all with the old stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't know. They also listed as not vacant, but it's been vacant for the 10 years that I'm aware of.
The jobs I'm seeing go end in 2015.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
10 years ago. Goes fast.
But I think we should reach out to LPC and find out if their things ever expire. So this has it as 2 buildings. I see. That's why it's got 2.
Well,
With the
it's
2 addresses?
actually, they claim there's a garage there, but there's a garage door. And nothing else.
Got it.
It's just vacant.
And you can attest everything's been vacant for 10 years.
Yeah.
There's been no act.
So we should find out if their stuff has expired, number 1. Number 2, we should reach out to City College to request an update. I think unfortunately both Dr. Griffith and her husband passed away, who were the owners of the house next door.
The house next door has been bought by a development company, basically.
Well, he's saying next door convent, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
and Convent, I'm sorry, I'm going on 141. Yes, that's the veterinarian, yeah.
Yes.
They died.
Yeah. I think they died during COVID. And so we don't know who owns the building now.
Isn't there work going on at that house?
There's something going on.
There's, and I think there's, what's the word I'm looking for,
Permit.
but the sign up, yes, thank you. Yeah, there's activity going on at the veterinarian's house. Because there's, workers coming in and out.
It's on it. They're looking.
So we should definitely reach out to our friends at DOB to find out if any of these permits are still valid. Like if they submitted a zoning diagram 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and it was approved, does that approval ever expire? And the same for their other permits. And then we have to ask the same question of LPC. And then we need City College to work with us now rather than later on some of those questions.
So we should ask them to come maybe next month.
Yeah, the issue was like they were building a 4-foot tall elevator shaft on the lot line, which is very aggressive and not always the best and most neighborly thing to do. Yep, that was the zoning diagram. If anyone wants to see that.
That thing, I believe.
Yeah.
And I would love to see the building utilized. I'm just curious as to what they have in mind.
Right.
As a neighbor, I would have not.
Okay. What we will add it.
And I think we've been
That's the old.
trying to get CCNY to come and do regular updates with us anyway, so it's a good chance to reach out.
Oh, it had been vetoed?
Our neighbor who's been there a long time. I think that building, they were trying to go high up. And she got actively involved and supposedly she stopped it. Because it's a landmark.
Did it go through a
community and it was, they wanted to go way up and. That's the rumor I hear from her.
I thought LPC had approved it and the money was what caused it to not happen.
Not Kate, not our neighbor. Our neighbor takes the credit, which is
She
fine.
might have had some influence.
supposedly she's
We don't
very
know.
active.
This was probably over 10 years ago now, right?
Probably,
Yeah.
and she didn't want this high rise thing. They're gonna put it on top or something.
That's before I was really involved in this committee, so.
And I guess according to what I've heard, it didn't meet landmarks and she got the thing.
Yeah, the
Well,
actual reasons.
I don't know if that was the 10-year ago one or if they'd had plans even longer before that.
She's
that-
been there a
what I'm
while,
wondering.
so I don't know which.
Yeah, 4 or 5. LPC says. That's on 42nd Street. Green dot, issued permits. Okay, where are the permits?
Hello, hello.
Hello, Annette.
How is everyone? Very good.
So they still have this as an issued permit on their map. I assume that means it's active, but
Gotcha.
here we go, permit. Permit issued 2022.
Oh,
It's fresh. Oh, they have 12 permits open.
They
Okay.
did have a series of people either trying to get in or maybe even trying to squat. And there was a certain amount of activity around the building at that time to secure it. So I don't know if that's what the permits were. For the open windows, they should close the locks.
So there were interior work that they were doing. Which may have been. What was approved, general appliance restoration of facade and roof work, 2023. Interior again. Right.
The president of CCNY was supposed to join them at that presentation of the check, so he must be aware of it at least. Dr. Vincent Boudreau.
Boudreau, yeah. This interior alterations only at the cellar through the 3rd floor, installation of metal windows, permit on basis. But it doesn't change anything, so it looks like. Wall mounted HVAC was approved this year. They've applied for a permit that's under review, existing historic openings, filing any work. I don't know why we can't view the pending permit then. And, oh, active violation from 1991. So they don't have any active exterior permits that would relate to the old work listed on LPC's website, which makes me think they've expired.
So the design that Kate, our neighbor, was opposed to, this, whatever it was, the high rise on top of the building. So that's dead, that's over, or would they have to go through a process again and get it approved? If they want to try that again?
if they're trying to rezone it, yeah.
Well, no, but they're also in a landmark.
It's a landmark.
district.
Oh, good.
So they, yeah, so
Can't just,
they would have to go to LPC. We have to ask DOB whether their old zoning diagram approval still holds from 2013 or 2015. God, that's a long time ago. Not feel that long.
It was yesterday and a long time ago,
Right.
both at the same time. Okay, well, thank you for bringing it to our attention and for bringing it up again.
Before.
This is why we need ears and eyes on the street. We can't see everything. We're 6 members now of the committee.
I have one other question. Do you know who actually owns that building? Is it City College?
It is City
That's what's given
College.
It
it
sounds like
title.
that's the case.
It was
So-
donated to them by an alumna who had some very complicated legal restrictions placed on it that makes it very difficult for them to dispose of it. Because they have been trying to sell it for 10 years.
Right.
Got it.
But she intended it to be used as the house of the president, which seems like a good idea to me, but that's none of my business.
Right, because I heard it has a beautiful staircase.
Supposedly nice inside, yeah.
Yeah. So City College owns it, but the $4 million came from,
Federal government.
Federal government, this was, I think, originally part of the infrastructure bill. And it is money to train folks in jobs that will be required by new infrastructure projects.
Says acquired through the appropriations fiscal year 2024. So must have been a little bit by this
Yeah.
infrastructure building.
So it could get killed by the new administration.
Oh, God, I hope not.
Just saying. So the $4 million is maybe from the infrastructure bill. So that 4 million is to renovate the interiors?
No. Well, yes,
Because it would
and
cost a lot to renovate those interiors.
they also have to fix it's presumably for both the building envelope and the interiors. The big question that we have is, are they gonna change any of the building envelope, or are they gonna restore the existing? And something tells me they're going to change it because it's a townhouse and not well laid out for,
Trainings.
So they change the inside, they can't change the outside, right? Or
they can if they get the proper permits.
They can.
If they get if they get permission from the Landmarks Preservation Commission and then the DOB approves their plans once the LPC is
I
signed.
think, and again, this is only hearsay, that at the previous time, they tried to use some sort of educational institution. Justification for not having to, do the landmark thing or whatever. I don't think it worked, but that
Yeah,
was,
I
I
don't-
think, an argument.
I don't think there's any carve out there for land in the landmarks law. I remember it was a really big scene because they claimed that they couldn't get in touch with the community board, and we were like,
We're right here.
like we talk every month at a minimum. So
So they could make it a modern monstrosity if they want to.
they couldn't tear it down. I mean, there's checkpoints that they have to go through, and certain things are less likely than others. It's less likely that they would tear it down and build something new. It's more likely that they would put in an application to add a story on top and add an elevator, shaft, wall, and envelope extension at the back of the building. That would be, if I had to guess without knowing, that would be what I would guess they would do. Since that's what they tried to do 10 years ago.
Right, that supposedly Kate would have stopped. Just one more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Since you're here, thank you for joining us. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the situation, and we could maybe give some advice, or what are you looking for?
Sure, I mean, we just came to learn more about the community board and this committee. I usually say I'm someone who's been forced into being a tenant rights advocate now. And so unfortunately for my landlord, I'm quite an obsessive person. So that's all I learn about these days.
Be careful, many committee members started in your place and joined us later, so.
Yes, and so it's just my long-term goal to be able to give back everything I've learned in my own case. And dealing with tenant succession claims that are meant to protect us, but I personally don't think it's right that landlords like mine can just willy-nilly force me to go into litigation and delay our process. And I make the deadlines, they miss the deadlines, and I know eventually and hopefully my rights will be upheld.
It's
But
interesting
an annoying
because
process.
we were talking about what kind of workshops we might want to do, and one of them was tenant rights, but also specifically succession was talked about. And we do get a small pot of money from our city council members, discretionary funds called, to do workshops and things of this nature that are outreach, and maybe you'd be interested in helping us out with that.
And I actually brought this, I believe it here. Columbia Spectator covered my story.
Oh.
And
Landlord, and what's this?
my landlord is made up of my neighbors, so it's a co-op. And one of the shareholders is an outgoing retired assembly member. Actually, today I was happy to receive a letter of support from my current assembly member and council member Abreu, So that was one of my ups today. Yeah, so it's very, at least from what I've been learning and reading, kind of niche in that I haven't seen many others dealing with my kind of tenant succession claim.
This is 605 West 111th?
Yes.
605 West 111th.
Yeah, I'm wondering, so it's a co-op and your grandparents have been there for many decades, right?
Yes.
And they opted not to convert to co-op when it went co-op, okay. Interesting.
So my grandma passed in May. I had been there 4 years officially. I've actually had a bedroom there my whole life. So I was always on and off there as a kid. Yeah, the list goes on and on. I was paying rent the last 4 years. Utilities. School work. Landlord just continues to ask for more and more documents, more and more invasive things.
I remember this article because Dan also is in this article.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I know Dan well.
Yes, Dan's been very supportive. There are some things I haven't chatted about quite publicly, but I've dealt with private investigators. So yeah, in many ways, it's been a nightmare, but as I mentioned, I'm obsessive, so fighting the good fight brings me joy in some way. Yeah.
I think you get us and we get you. We don't do this for the money or the glory. It's volunteer work.
Do you have an attorney?
Yes, so I have an attorney. When did this all start? Grandma died in May. Around June, I received the notice to quit. That's like, oh, you gotta get out of here. Then in the process of sending documents, our lawyers were already talking. They did the holdover notice, which from some people that I chatted with, it seemed odd that they didn't give like my lawyer a heads up that they were going forward with that aspect. We had that first court date, which seemingly that first court date is usually adjourned. Both sides agreed to certain stipulations. Both sides agreed to discovery requests. Those were due December 1st. I submitted everything we needed to submit December 1st. The other side didn't submit their things until 2 days before when our next court date was supposed to be. So that date got adjourned. And right now, my next court date should be end of March, hopefully.
Got it. Okay. That is good to know. And yeah, this is an interesting situation too, because there are a number of so-called busted co-op conversions in our district as well, that buildings that tried to go co-op in the late 80s, early 90s, which was kind of the peak of the co-op bubble. And then relatively few tenants purchased shares. And so it is technically a co-op, but the prior landlords still own like a large amount of units. And those can get very hairy in terms of how tenants are treated appropriately and inappropriately, and the same thing for shareholders. So.
In our building, so there's 2 buildings and there's probably less than 5 rent stabilized tenants left.
Mhm.
Seemingly every rent stabilized vacancy has always led to the apartment being sold.
Yeah, it would if there were not someone with a valid succession rights claim. Because once the tenant in a rent regulated apartment vacates or passes away, it leaves rent regulation entirely, and it can either be sold or moved into by the owner. You can even actually buy it while the tenant is still living there, but that just means that you now are their landlord because you own that one apartment in the building. Yeah, it's an interesting, complicated set of situations that occur not infrequently in this neighborhood.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and learning with us in the process. All right, so that's new business. Any other new business? No?
This seems to be one of these things.
Go on to old business.
Yeah, I don't think
Something in the chat. Oh. So going back to our agenda. I see Edwin has joined us. Hi, Edwin.
Hello, hello.
Previous community board member, but still with us. See the
Good to
heart
hear from you,
with,
Dr.
with
Torres.
love. Good to hear from you, Dr. Torres. All right, so then we'll move on to old business.
Do we want to ask
Yeah.
while we have Mr. Crooks on about any
Oh,
updates
yes.
for that building?
Yes. Mr. Crooks, are you still on there?
I am here.
Oh, wonderful. So yeah, last time we met, we were hoping to get some further updates. There was, a scurry of activity and information coming to us about the buildings across the street.
Yep.
And so do you have any further updates on what's going on?
Yes. So, we just got a 2-week stay from Commissioner Rain, Manhattan, Commissioner for DOB. We started work in the building, Monday. We doing the asbestos first, and then there's going to be some roofing done. So, we got a tight leash. He says as long as we see progress, then he'll give us a longer stay. But yes.
Did DOB finally approve your stabilization permits?
Yes, they're being resubmitted now. They've been resubmitted. So things are going in. We got access to the building now. We were able to take the lock off that HPD put on, so we have access to the building now. So things are slowly progressing in the right direction.
If I remember correctly, sir, the fact that one of their main examiners for your applications that you kept submitting kept rejecting them because she thought it wasn't structurally sound enough. So if they're letting you go back in and do work, it sounds like either the bulk of those concerns were addressed or they finally took her off the application.
Well, it's been a long struggle. I mean, we've been dealing with this since late May of 2023 when we got the order of the demolition, and they've been going back and forth with the forensic engineer, but it finally got to the point where they approved the plans for the building.
All right, well, that is a minor miracle, and I'm very excited to hear that.
Yeah, so hopefully, like I said, we have a 2-week stay right now, and we have to give the commissioner's office a progress report on where we're going. So
if you could keep, the community board in the loop on that, just in case anything comes up and you need us to call DOB again.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, and I want to thank the board for all the support they gave us, throughout the last 8 months, because it's really been a tough go. So I thank the board for that. And yes, I will stay in touch. I've been sending updates to a lady named Olivia. I think she's out of Assemblyman Taylor's office.
Wendy Oliva.
Wendy.
Wendy. But I can send updates to the board, but I intend to make the meetings when my schedule allows me to. So I tend to be.
That's great.
If you wanted to add our district manager, Eutha Prince, is probably the best way to give one person at the board the update, and she can then share it to whoever needs it. She's ePrince at.
Could you email it?
I'm gonna put it in the chat right now,
and
Mr. Crooks.
I'll email it to you.
Is it Eutha.Prince at CB9M?
ePrince.
ePrince.
At CB9M.
All right, Mr. Crooks, it's in the chat right now.
Yep, I see it. I got it.
Yep.
You guys can just call me Mel.
Oh, All right, Mel. I'm Signe.
That was good.
And it's good to talk to you again.
Mhm.
But we appreciate your being here and the update.
Yes.
And if there's anything else that comes up besides 356, please don't hesitate to give us a call.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right.
Very good. All right, let me share that agenda again. So moving on to old business. I can probably, well, I don't know if I want to take it off yet, but I know that we have a new member kind of leading the RKO Hamilton Theater Task Force. Although I don't know if an announcement has been made on any meetings. Haven't heard anything, but if anybody is familiar about the theater at 140 Broadway and between 146, 147, Hamilton Theater. It's been a long journey with that. We probably had a visioning meeting 8 years ago now. I feel like it's been to try and help, vision what that space could be. We'd love to see artist space. We'd love to see maybe some housing for artists or seniors or other kinds of space like that. And it's currently owned by a developer with a portfolio of a bunch of other things, so they don't have a big interest in anything but renting it out right now. It's where the Snipes sneaker and clothing store is, and the
Building with the angels.
yes, yeah, it's an old theater, and the inside is. If you talk to our preservation people on the board, they will tell you it's quite impressive what's on the inside, even though it's pretty empty in there right now, but it's still impressive. So, there's the community's wish list versus what could be realistic versus the money it would take to make everything we dream happen. And, federal funds would be needed, maybe some sort of angel donor would be needed. But we would love to see the theater restored. We would love to see a lot of things, but what's realistic is always the balance in here. Currently, it's owned by a private, commercial developer. So we would have to make it attractive to them to let go of it and bring it into something for the community.
Yeah, we had two developers come up with concepts for it, one of which actually bought an option on it.
Yeah.
But then that option expired and they didn't renew. And I suspect it was because the developer owner was not interested.
Yeah, so it's got to be attractive to the developer.
Are they required to keep the angels or?
Yes.
The outside landmarking is, intact. So the outside is landmarked, not the inside necessarily.
Right. We have two primary pieces of leverage as the community board. One is that they would have to come before us if they wanted to do commercial use all the way back to the back wall between 146 and 147. So not the Broadway facade, because the commercial zoning overlay cuts off before that and it's a residentially zoned lot. And the other is that it is an exterior landmark, including both the front portion, which is, the entry hall and has the angels and it's very beautiful, as well as the back portion, which is a brick box on the exterior, admittedly, but does have the very beautiful blue domed ceiling and the interior details inside of it. But the interior itself is not landmarked.
Yeah. Okay, so there is a task force, which is not a committee of the board, but a task force is made up of many different committees, and public folks can join those task forces to help keep things moving. If you're interested in joining that at the next meeting, we'll put you in touch with the gentleman who's going to lead that effort. So, any questions on that? Otherwise, we'll move along.
Which is Walter Alexander.
Walter
I don't think
Alexander.
we've said that yet.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Walter Alexander. Should I put his information in the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah. And next is legislation. Any legislation we're watching? While I
S880.
find,
But I don't think there's an
while I
update.
find Walter's email.
I do have a question about legislation. Can I ask that now or?
Oh, this would be a good time, sure.
I'm just wondering about the damp tax. That's the tax abatement for HDFCs, and if there's any, I know that there's a lot of interest in trying to extend it, but at the moment it seems to set to expire in the next several years. It's actually impeding our ability to be able to get loans past the damp tax expiration. So I was just wondering if you know of any updates or basically if there are any updates or what the next steps are.
Yeah, so that is Senate Bill 880 in the New York State Senate. It's also I guess it doesn't go A2707 in the Assembly. But it is a bill that would create a permanent replacement for the damp tax exemption. The damp tax exemption is scheduled to expire in 2029. If you want, Sydney, we could drop the link to the Senate thing in the chat, but that is actually co-sponsored and co-sponsored by our two state senators, one of whom doesn't actually cover our neighborhoods anymore, Senator Robert Jackson, but who was for many years our state senator, and also State Senator Cordell Clare is the co-sponsor on that. And that bill was introduced in part to give more certainty around taxes to HDFC co-ops. So we passed a resolution in support of that last month. And
yeah, I'm pulling it from that now.
It is presumably
link.
If you call your assembly members or, write your assembly members in Albany, I think this is something they will support. But the only issue is because HDFCs are geographically limited, their natural constituency is sort of limited. So our legislators have to get their colleagues on board with this. And in the past, HPD, which has not been friendly to HDFCs, has actually used upstate legislators to introduce bills that HPD wants. So you would be surprised what can happen in Albany. And I doubt Harvey Epstein supports this. I don't actually know.
Other than calling or writing our assembly people, are there any other action steps we can take or any other recommendations you would have?
I'll also add that there's a group called the HDFC Coalition, which I think is doing a lot of advocacy around this, and they're holding an event on Thursday.
Oh yeah, they have a meeting on Thursday. Where you can learn a lot more.
And that's like a
I know.
webinar. They're gonna be talking a lot about like outreach attempts and how like ways to advocate for it or with regards to the bill. So that might be an event that's worth attending.
Okay, great. Yes, I'm signed up for that meeting as well. Perfect.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the people in the know on this one. They're the ones that brought this, bring a lot of this type of legislation to us.
And for the record, Al Taylor is the sponsor in the assembly, so
Okay.
he's carrying it. So our other two assembly members are Jordan Wright and Michael Lasher.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, Anita, I see your hand is raised. Hi, Anita. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you. I wonder if there's last month they mentioned, there were a certain number of distressed HDFCs and then a certain number categorized as severely distressed. Is it possible? I sent an email right after the meeting. Is it possible to know what those buildings are? Get those addresses?
Considered to be the distress she was.
There's a, distressed category, I think, and it's like with arrears more than $3,000 per unit, something like that. And then severely distressed, just since it's such a specific number, I think, I don't remember off the top of my head. It was like 19 and 32. I wonder if it's possible to get those addresses.
It might be, let me see. If I can find that. Yeah, but Otherwise, I think we just have to ask HPD, who are not always super helpful.
Oh, and just as an aside, I think Councilmember Brew has agreed to meet with our building in HPD. I wonder if anyone from the Housing Committee can join.
When is the
When is it?
meeting?
We've been trying, that's a good question. We've been trying to get a date. At first, they said one of the Mondays of March, but we're kind of, running out of Mondays of March. So if anyone has any specific availability, like blackout dates or dates that are good for us, we can try to, make a request to a Brew's office who will pass it on to HPD.
I sadly leave tomorrow for a month, but let's see what comes up.
Property charges summary. Here we go.
Barry's doing some research. Hold on, Anita.
Stand by.
Stand
We
by.
can come back to this.
Yep. Let's see. Developments we're watching. 1727 Amsterdam. We had, Barry, do you have anything more since the meeting?
Just that
Okay.
look.
Just that look. So yeah, this is a long journey. There was a meeting, community meeting this weekend about 1727 Amsterdam. This is on the corner of 145th and Amsterdam. It's currently a Health and Hospitals site. Allegedly, because they came to us 2023, or we discovered in 2023, one of our neighbors discovered that something was brewing on that site. It's currently the site of Emma Bowen and Heritage Health, mental health services. There was an ophthalmologist there. There's lots of health services on site currently. And in 2023, one of the neighbors saw them doing some testing and said, 2022, that they were doing some testing, soil testing. And they said, what's going on there? And we said, we don't know. So we called and Barry, what did they say? What's going on with that site?
I don't think you're supposed to know about that yet.
Yeah, that's not a good way to start a relationship with us. And so we quickly tried to get more information on this and found out that there's a agency, the Bowery Residents, that has been given the rights to develop this spot, and they're looking at supportive housing and affordable housing on that site. It was done without any transparency for us knowing what was going on. So currently, we are questioning whether it's actually owned by Health and Hospitals, which it sounds like we don't believe that's the case. It's city owned, which means it should go through a public process called the ULURP, which would give us much more transparency and understanding of what's going on, as well as more say in the process, which is what we want. We put together a reso opposed to what's currently proposed and gave an alternate proposal saying, listen, we'd be willing to maybe go even up in size a bit because it's a great corner for that. It's actually on the 145th and Amsterdam is a good corner. More housing on the site, maybe, retail on the bottom, some things that we would propose. Then it would go through ULURP and, we could be friendly about that. So there was a big meeting on Saturday, I believe it was, about this, trying to get the community unified and gathered in what we're trying to see happen on that site. So if you're interested in more, I'm sure we can connect you with the right folks. Get on a mailing list and such. And Edwin has his hand up. Hi, Edwin.
Hi, Sydney. I was gonna say, we have that building that was built on 135th in Amsterdam, and it's multi-use, big building. Why can't they be more creative with that building on 145th? And I remember when we asked them if they did a community assessment, they said they did, and the paperwork that they submitted to us was never from CB9. It was a community health assessment from Health Hospital. And what Health and Hospital needed, not what Community Board 9 needed. They never turned those paper in. I don't know if they have come back. They said they were going to come back. They were going to do it. They never did it.
I think. What building are you talking about? 135th in Amsterdam?
You know the one that is like right in between the projects and one on Amsterdam by Palante.
Oh, you're thinking of like 130th in Amsterdam.
Yeah, 130th, that huge building.
Like 1450 or whatever they call it.
Yeah, you see that they have the first floor is going to be commercial. Like, why can't these folks think and say, you know what, this is 145th prime real estate. Can we build something where the first, second floor, or third floor can be commercial? We have a huge need. I mean, look,
we offered them that, Edwin, in our reso.
I know
that was literally what we called for. And when we brought it up to HPD in 2022, they said, "Oh, but we want to avoid Euler." So the existing zoning on that site is more restrictive than it was on Amsterdam and 130th. Which is why we offered to upzone it. And we told them, well, you have to do ULURP anyway, so why not get something for it? And they just denied that they needed ULURP. And the irony is, had they put in a ULURP application when we told them to in 2022, they would be finished with it by now. ULURP does not take more than 2 years usually. And so part of the reason ULURP exists is to give a clear timeline and process for these things. And instead they've been flailing around making a mess for almost 3 years. And I'll say this. The other update is that last week on Wednesday, or whatever week now, I don't know, my brain is shot. There was a hearing at the City Council subcommittee on, zoning, public siting and dispositions, landmarks, public siting dispositions. And HHC was applying to add this building to their operating agreement with the city, which defines built properties that HHC has that were not part of the hospitals department in 1969 or 70. And in doing so, they admitted that they did not yet have this property, which they have been lying about for almost 3 years. And then when Councilmember Marte asked if any services would be disrupted at any of the 9 sites listed, including 1727, they said no, services would continue as normal, it's just paperwork. And they were under oath, so they lied under oath to the city council. And then in a court filing that was also sworn, they said that they're trying to evict Heritage Health and Housing. And Heritage said, well, since our lease expired, we're on a month-to-month lease. And HHC said, you never had a lease. If we were going to lease this property, we'd have to go through ULURP. Which is, again, the exact opposite of what they say to us when they meet with us. So they're lying, they're contradicting themselves. They contradict themselves in sworn testimony. Like, I reported the person who lied under oath to the city council to their inspector general. But like they're a hot frickin' mess because they don't want to follow the law. And all of these decisions they're making to try to avoid the law are just making it worse.
You excited, Christina?
Thank you, Barry, and to the committee for the advocacy. I think that for all of us who are new, please pay attention and let's keep the pressure, because these folks, they come in and they want to basically push their agenda on us without taking into consideration what we really need, because we're the one who walk around here every single day.
And it's publicly owned land, God damn it! Like this is what kills me. Like we have very few development sites, very little developable land in West Harlem. when we do, we should try to get as much affordable housing as possible when it gets developed. And when it's city-owned land, it should be all truly affordable housing built to as much as we can support as a neighborhood. And that is not what this is. And yeah, they are self-defeating, lying assholes.
And he is on the record.
Hey, I will say that under oath. And you will not catch me contradicting myself.
Is
Can I
there
ask a
TLDR?
question?
Sorry.
Who's that? I'm sorry.
Hi, this is Mrs. Brown. I'm just a member of the community. I've been attending some of the meetings. Just wanted a quick question for clarity. That current location, 1727, the zoning is R6A, R7A, R7D, C1 to 4. That just means pretty much residential with a commercial overlay. And if it's city-owned, under the current zoning, is it that we, in terms of, let's just say, CB9, where are we asking for development just under residential and the commercial, and we're willing to give them a design option? Or is CB9 saying you do want some sort of supportive housing in there for services? I understand that we didn't want as much as 60%, but is CB9 saying they are in favor of supportive housing, or do we just want affordable housing in terms of CB9's perspective?
You want both. I don't remember if our resolution, which was very long, it's like 11 pages, specifically endorsed supportive housing at that site. I think we did say if you're going to put supportive housing there, you should use a local provider that's actually built supportive housing in Harlem before.
I'm sorry, say that again. If we use supportive housing, what?
If supportive housing gets developed on that site, it should be done with a local developer that actually has developed and run supportive housing in Harlem before, which BRC is not.
Does that require a certain designation, a zoning, in order to
No,
have supportive
I mean,
housing?
it has to, it's residentially zoned, so that's supportive housing is a valid use in a residential zone. To the extent we did call for development, we said bump it up to R8A. You can restore all of our mental health and healthcare facility space. Also, like, I forget, it was 3,000 or 5,000 square feet of commercial retail, which would be helpful on that block because there's like a large blank wall. Like, there's no commercial activity on the no legal commercial activity on the northeast corner of that intersection. And eyes on the street, et cetera, active street life. And you would still have 50% more housing square footage even after returning all of the mental health and healthcare space and adding in commercial space. So that is what we have called for in terms of like zoning and use.
The mental health and healthcare space is basically the commercial floor at the bottom. Is that right?
Not necessarily.
Or it would be within the first 3 levels of the building, something like that.
Probably.
Okay. So my question, I thought we were of the mind that we are saturated with social services, that we are saturated in Hamilton Heights and West Harlem with social service programs, drug addiction, mental illness programs. We are saturated. I thought that was our position. And if that is our position, why are we wanting and agreeing to more social service, supportive housing? Why would we want that?
The community board is either not of the opinion that we're saturated or has taken conflicting stances. I can't remember, but we have called for more supportive housing in our budget requests every year. And we, supportive housing is a very specific type of housing and services that, when done well, is purely a net asset to the community and we support. However, we don't think this is that, number one. Number two, the way they're going about it is illegal. Number three, they're taking away our healthcare services. So we have not opposed supportive housing on that site, is my memory. And the whole saturated argument is not one the community board has made.
Okay, that's what I want to get clarity on. Community Board 9 is not of the mind that we are saturated with social service and supportive type of services or housing in Hamilton Heights or West Harlem. Is that right?
Let me see if we passed a reso on that. I thought Palma had a reso.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. Moratorium would be the keyword. Yeah, we will double check to make sure that I'm actually giving you the right information. But that is my knowledge, and I did write the resume, so.
How, if you don't mind me asking, how long ago would the supportive housing resident have been?
During the pandemic, I think.
Okay.
MCB. Oh, this is HPD. Yeah, and I think like nuance and specificity is very important when discussing these things, because we have partners who do fantastic work in our community and we have excellent relationships with, and then we have proposals that don't make sense. And we want to keep those things distinct.
I have a question. Is 1727 at 145 or at 141?
145.
145, okay. So what happens there will impact 141. It's like, is it of a piece? The two are related? Because I heard we were having something at the end of 141 in Amsterdam. Some kind of supportive housing.
Oh, I know. You're talking about the Harry Simmons building.
1649.
Yes. That is the so that is a building owned by Heritage Health and Housing. It is currently used as supportive housing. Heritage, because it is being displaced from 1727, is retrofitting that building to move healthcare services there. And I think they moved a portion. This is the irony, is that they were going to displace supportive housing units that are already operating to build supportive housing units, like crazy pills. 1763, I found our moratorium for 1763 Amsterdam, which we then came to an agreement on.
That's our next topic, so just keep that handy. I can't find the reso.
I wonder if we didn't pass it. I'm gonna check from my opponent.
I will make a quick comment that as like a relatively new board member, it is, because we don't post the resolutions online, it's often very difficult to tell like what the community board's official positions are on issues like this.
We don't post resos online.
We
I've never
should.
been able to find them on the website.
We used to.
We did. There used to be meeting recaps.
We used to post minutes online too. Wait, can we go to the website?
Yeah.
I mean, you could go to a particular, if you click through all the meetings, you might be able to find it, but that's not really something that's feasible if you're looking for a reso. Oh, you can never go to the CB9 website.
In here.
From
this
bizarre. I've never understood that.
Okay.
We can sort this out later. It's just
Okay.
a comment that I've never successfully been able to find our past list of past resos.
That is
Okay.
really important to know.
Yeah. It's hard to find them. They probably are in there. It's just hard.
I don't think we wound up passing that reso.
Okay.
I have a quick question as well. Barry, is there any chance you could like give like a TLDR summary of what the ownership situation is? Because I'm told that it has its health and hospitals.
So when we found out about it, it said City of New York. They went in, took some documents off of Acris and changed the listing. However, The site was foreclosed on by the city in the sixties. They were gonna build a thing there. 1727 got built and furnished, but then they didn't have any money to run it, so then a nonprofit literally broke in and occupied the building and began offering services there. And then the city kind of like retroactively regularized that agreement with those organizations. 70s were wild. And because the community was really pissed off that they had this beautiful new facility that had been built with equipment inside it that was not being used when it was supposed to be being used to treat their needs. HHC, so HHC gets its buildings two ways according to their line deputy general counsel. One of which is any buildings that were property of the Department of Hospitals of New York City when HHC was created in 1969 became HHC properties. This was not that because this was not built in 1969. The other way is an operating agreement between the city and HHC that lists specific properties that have been conveyed to HHC to be operated on. This building was not on it, and HHC just applied 50 years later to add it. That operating agreement has not been amended in 50 years. So that is why it's not HHC's. HHC thinks it's theirs because the city has forced them to pay for maintenance on it because the city did not want to. Which sucks for HHC, but not our problem. And irregardless of all of this bullshit, right? Who owns what? Even if HHC actually had the property, the courts have ruled that if HHC is going to dispose of a property or not operate it to offer services anymore, it has to go through ULURP. So why the fuck we're still having this conversation 3 years later is beyond me. Anyway, like those were Giuliani era lawsuits against HHC where it was ruled they had to go through ULURP if they were disposing of property.
Can I ask
And that
a
was the
quick,
Court of Appeals. Yeah.
quick question? I don't know the protocol. I'm kind of new to this. Just interested because we're all concerned in my block and in my neighbor network. We're concerned about the additional supportive housing for mental illness, drug use, or whatever it is. You know, I think at the meeting Saturday, someone said it very, very eloquently. We are empathetic to all needs of folks that live here in New York City, but we've kind of are at our fill. So I was wondering, within a 10-block radius, literally between West 140th, yeah, and I'm talking between Amsterdam or Broadway, it's like 15 or 16 supportive housing services or services. I mean, and it's more than that because we have another program that's on my block that's ran through the church. Is a whole nother program. There's 15 to 20 services that we're giving within a 9 to 10 block radius. Would CB9 reconsider installing and advocating for additional supportive housing at that location? Can they reconsider that portion? We do want development. We do want affordable housing, but additional supportive housing is just a bit much given the amount of supportive services we're offering within a 9-block radius.
I think it's important to separate out what we're talking about, right? So within that block radius, you do have outpatient drug treatment programs like Face Piggyback, right? You do have a city daycare on 145th Street. You do have the AIDS Foundation, which acquired the old hotels and I actually still don't quite understand who their target population is.
I don't think they know what they're doing.
But they're building housing, like just straight up housing. It's not supportive, it's not transitional, it's just kind of like an SRO, actually.
Yeah, that's my impression so far.
You've got a homeless shelter that is next on the agenda. You've got supportive housing at the Harry Simmons building on Amsterdam, which is now getting downsized. But there are services we want, right? Like, we want the services that the Emma Bowen Center provides to continue. we want the healthcare services that Heritage provides to continue, and mental health they also offer. And I don't think, I know I, as a community board member, would not be comfortable saying like, no social services in that area. And I wouldn't even really be comfortable saying no supportive housing in that area. I think for us, the question is, what would be a good project on that site? And there's definitely a world where a project that includes supportive housing done properly is good on that site. But operators matter. Concentration matters. You know, there are some in the supportive housing development world that argue that supportive housing complexes with more than 40 supportive housing units don't work because it's too over concentrated of a population to really service well and manage. And I don't think the community board wants to shut down those conversations about what this could be. I do think we also don't really want this to be a purely Harlem Hospital referral based supportive housing, which is what HHC wants, or has stated that they want. Maybe they thought that was like a selling point. I don't know. But yeah, so I hear your concern. In this circumstance, I share it because of BRC, and we know that they're not really a good operator. But I can't tell you that if the operator were different and the project were different, I wouldn't support supportive housing there. But that's a personal position.
I think the community is saturated with it, and a lot of people are tired. And the homeowners who spend on millions of dollars on homes need to have a saying on this. It's not just the community board saying, we agree or disagree. It's the homeowners, it's the renters, it's people who have to deal with this every single day, walking down Convent. It is too much, and I think people feel it. And we, as part of the community, need to listen to them, you know?
Right. I think that that's also why ULURP exists, is to give a formal process for all of those voices to be brought in the conversation.
But I think we're not clear in telling people that. We, by saying in a vague term that, oh, we don't know what projects are cool or not, we need to say, no, we stand with you. We have too many of these. So we need to work on that.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I am a homeowner who lives between two supportive housing projects. Like, I understand the perspective, but I also understand that the particular two supportive housing projects within a block or two of me are really excellent and are assets to the community. And so I think specifics matter, and I'll leave it at that. But now we have another specific coming up on the agenda.
Yeah. So next, on the agenda. Yes, next we also have 1763 Amsterdam. To the point of housing, and this one is the Old Child's Memorial Site. Barry, do we have an update, you said?
Yes, so the office received today a letter from the Department of DHS, Department of Social Services, whatever, their structure is complicated, Department of Homeless Services, saying that they had approved a shelter to be run by, I'm gonna have to give up this moratorium search. New, what was it called? 1763, right? So we got this at 4 p.m.
Right.
It is a letter from Deputy Commissioner. She really should print her name under her signature. Jamar Hooks, I think, at the Department of Social Services, under which sits HRA, under which sits the Department of Homeless Services. And so they have approved the construction and opening of a 125 unit homeless shelter at 1763 Amsterdam Avenue on 147th Street to be operated by Highland Park, who I've never heard of. Anticipated opening summer 2026. It will be transitional housing for families with children experiencing homelessness, prioritizing those from the community. They are also creating a community advisory board for the site to maintain direct and regular communications between the community. And they asked us for recommendations for names for the cab. And this is something we voted in favor of 2023.
I think it was when all that went down.
Yeah, I think we've been fighting it since 2018. And the developer, we actually wanted this ironically to be developed into affordable housing and supportive housing. The developer proposed a similar shelter, but with more studio units. On the ground floor is going to be a return of the church that previously owned the site and sold it to the developer, Child's Memorial Church of God in Christ. They're going to have like a fellowship hall and they want to do community services there, which is fine, great. The deal to make it permanent housing fell through when the Attorney General sued the pastor. And that suit was later tossed, withdrawn, or he was found not guilty. So just for the record there. But in the meantime, the supportive housing developer we had actually lined up walked away because they didn't want to be involved in the legal fight. And so now we are back to transitional housing or shelter. They did increase the number of family-sized units because we're like, why do you have families with children in studios? They also agreed, the developer owns another building on Amsterdam, and they agreed to bring that back into affordable housing from market rate. And they agreed to contribute $250,000 to a community benefits fund advised by the community board. So we went from a shelter that was all studio units and no community givebacks to getting affordable housing to then losing that, but getting more family units, a community benefits fund, and the return of a number of market rate units to affordable standards.
Okay, just a quick question. That's on Amsterdam at 147th Street?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's 125 units of shelter
Yep.
housing. And the developer or the owner of the space is an owner of another Amsterdam location, Amsterdam Avenue location?
Correct.
Is that location in Hamilton Heights on Amsterdam or further south, or do you know where it
It's
is?
further
Few blocks up.
Yeah, on Amsterdam. So somewhere in the high 140s, low 150s.
Is that 142?
No, it would
No,
be above that. It
above
would be
this.
above 147. So
Oh, going north.
yeah, a couple blocks going north. Yeah.
Okay.
And that would be
So-
all affordable housing.
And that's not a huge building. It's like it's maybe like old law tenement size.
Yeah, no, it's not huge.
Okay. So that building that's currently market that this person has been negotiated to be made into additional, or a portion of, I guess, the apartments in that other building. He's agreed to make that additional shelter housing, or
No,
No. That's affordable housing.
permanent affordable housing. Like they're lowering the rents in the apartments.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
And it's like not that many units, like 10 maybe.
Yeah, it's not a lot. 10 or 12.
But greater than 0.
Okay, and the grounding tenant for the building at 147th in Amsterdam is just the church, or it's going to be additional commercial?
Just
the church.
125 more units of shelter housing. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
thanks.
part of the deal. So that, you know, part of this was a legal agreement between the church and what was going on, and the church, the legal agreement required that the church have a new home within what, 2 years?
Some bullshit.
Yeah, so this was, you know, the twisting of arms. I know, he's so bad tonight.
I'm at the end of my rope.
The attorney general kind of twisted the arms with this legal document to make sure that the church gets their home within 2 years, which then gave us no choice with the
Yeah,
developer, that they had
they-
to move forward.
We had been pushing the developer to do permanent affordable housing. They were willing to do it. The Attorney General said, why the hell haven't you built this church yet? You promised to build the
Yeah.
church a new home. You haven't.
You have this soul cleaning.
Yeah. And that was,
He's cleaning it up for the minutes.
and that was
The recording is
why
here.
they had to go back to the shelter plan.
Yeah.
So call Tish James if you're upset
Yeah,
about it.
call Tish James.
But
We had a lovely idea and then it all got shut down.
they were in contract.
I know.
Do we know how many family size? Because if I remember, it was, they were willing to do 2, then they went up to 10 or 11 or something.
That sounds about
That
right.
sounds
We
about
can-
right.
We can find it though in the updated, in our reso that we passed.
Yeah.
Or it was a letter of support maybe, but
I think it's 12.
the developer. I don't know when the deadline was for them to build the church. I think it's passed and construction hasn't started, but like. Tish lost her case, so who knows what the deal is. Anyway, they're obligated to build a building quickly.
So Barry, quick question, 1727, I know BHC wanted to do 60% supportive housing. What was?
No, BRC, Bowery
BRC,
Residence.
Be very clear, yeah.
BHC is Broadway Housing Communities, which is
Sorry.
a very high quality provider of
Yeah.
affordable housing and supportive housing in our neighborhood.
Okay, well, the acronyms are a bit much, but I get it.
No,
Thank
we
you
agree.
for the correction. But BRC, I guess, wanted 60% supportive housing at 1727. What was Manhattan Community Board 9's resolution suggestion on supportive housing? What percentage did you put into the resolution that you wanted?
Sure that we did, but let me check.
Oh, yeah, Tiffany pushed it. Remember, she was still in the committee when we had him for the first time.
And if that's something I can find online, you can just direct me and I don't want to hold up the meeting. It's just that, you know, first time I'm hearing we're going to have 125 more units in the neighborhood for shelter housing, and just to get an idea of what we're asking for in terms of Community Board 9's perspective, what we're asking for in additional supportive housing. What did you, what percentage did you?
So we, just to clarify while I'm looking for the answer to your question, I should point out that DHS has a spectrum of facilities that they lease or contract or own and run. They call this particular type of shelter transitional housing because they are apartment units as opposed to congregate settings or other like dormitory-like settings.
It's on the screen.
Thank you. Most of our reso just calls for them to do ULURP and to do an R8A rezoning. And commercial. And replace Bowery Residence Committee. So we do want them to replace it with with a developer with extensive experience in developing supportive housing and or affordable housing in West Harlem. Community must actively participate. We want to study to see what the needs are. Comprehensive environmental assessments, which are part of ULURP. We want them to stop doing illegal stuff.
Barry, I think she just wants to see it, so is it possible that she can just post her email in the chat and we could possibly send it to her? Cause
Yeah, so just out of curiosity, if anybody's not on our emailing list, I did send that out last week, I feel like, the reso that we created, a bunch of information on this. So I did send it by MailChimp, and we can send it directly to Miss Brown as well. But if anybody is on our mailing list, I did send out this reso, and I just want to make sure everybody has a chance to look at it and see exactly what we did pass.
Yeah, so the reso didn't explicitly call for supportive housing or not supportive housing. It did call for affordable housing. And it did say any developer chosen should have experience in developing and running supportive housing or affordable housing in West Harlem.
Yeah,
But
I
no,
think
we
I'm
didn't-
I'm on your list. I think I received it, but I didn't see the percentage of
We
housing
didn't
that was
specify a
agreeable.
percentage or a quantity of units, but it's all there in the reso.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
So yeah, so this is transitional. 1763 is to be transitional housing, which means they are apartment style units that families move into for like up to 12 or 18 months while they find permanent housing. So it's slightly different than some of the other shelter forms that the city contracts for or runs.
Got it.
Actually, interestingly, when we asked that developer if they would consider partnering with BRC for their shelter, they said, no, we only work with high quality providers.
Yeah.
Good times.
Okay.
We gotta write a book.
We do. Any other developments we want to give updates on?
I have a question.
Yes.
The church on Convent and 141, the great big,
St. Luke's.
yeah,
Yep.
anything with that, or is it just?
No updates that I know of.
Just
There was
sitting
a
there?
couple of proposals as far as what they were gonna do, and then that fell through.
We can ask the presbytery. No, it's not Presbyterian, the diocese. It's
a diocese.
Episcopal.
I think so.
Yeah. We can ask them to give an update. They came to us with an update a year ago or a year or two ago. Time got squishy. But like they proactively reached out to us to give us an update when they thought they had to buy it
buyer.
lined up. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then that fell through.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing's happening, basically.
Not to our knowledge.
I don't think people want big churches, right?
No, it's
They're not a hot commodity with developers.
well, it is if the developer can tear them down, but this one is
Very
landmark.
good for a training center.
Indeed.
Beautiful building.
So the buildings on 133rd, which we know are as of right, is going to be all fair market. We are not in communication with the developers never respond to us at all as far as the story, or there is no story since it's as of right in fair market.
I believe you are correct. I think the only concession they've made to the community is that they will bring back a laundromat and a supermarket. But no, NYCHA in selling them public land did not attach any stipulations as to the affordability of it because NYCHA wanted all the money they could get.
And we're sure all their floors are right. There's nothing we can catch them on.
Unfortunately, the time to challenge their zoning application has passed. But I did check that building and it does not appear to violate the zoning. That is an R7-2 or an R7-1 district, and they're fine.
All right.
And then we did pass a letter of support last month for the. No, there's no update on that though. Never mind.
Okay. Anything else? If not, any public members on right now? I know last time we spoke about what kind of workshop we might want to do. One idea was tenants' rights. I did talk to Lucas from Cordell Clears, and they're very interested to partner with us on that. We should take advantage of that. If succession rights is something we can touch upon in that tenants' rights, that's probably a good idea. And take your experience perhaps as a case in point. So, Christina. That is, so if we want to do it before discretionary funds are over, it's end of June. Okay, so we need to try and get something on the schedule before end of June if possible. I'll see if anybody wants to take the lead. Public members sounded like they were starting. Let's see, MHCC updates, Barry, anything?
I sent those emails, but no one responded.
No one responded, okay.
Um,
Morningside Heights rezoning. That's one of the projects we've been on for a while.
and Till does have an update.
Okay,
The controller released a report on the tenant interim lease program that did not seem particularly inspired, although I haven't read all of it. But it weirdly included a table of buildings that had gone through ANCP after being transferred from Till that had maintenance costs, and the maintenance costs that the controller's report listed were much lower than the maintenance costs listed on Housing Connect when the units first went there. So it's possible that the Housing Connect numbers were wrong, or it's possible HPD lied to the controller's office. So it's worth digging a little deeper on that.
okay. Very good. So Till updates is the last item on old business. Any other old business? No? Okay. I don't think we have any action items brought out from this meeting. Is there anything hanging out? Not that I can think of right now.
I can't think of any.
Yeah.
The only thing is the state budget is gonna get passed this month, hopefully, so if we have any like state budget things that we want funded, this would be the last chance to kind of do that.
Okay. What's an example of that in case anybody in this room has ideas?
I don't have a good one.
Okay. Without any action items to vote upon, then the next item is adjournment.
I have a quick
Motion.
question.
Yes, yes, Ms. Pratt.
Yes, just wondering, my neighbor was trying to kind of chime in to jump on in the meeting, but I didn't have a problem, signing in, but he said he was required to sign his email in to get in. He had to give his name. If it's a public meeting, shouldn't you just be able to click the link and become a part of the meeting? It wouldn't allow him to get on unless he put his email in.
We
So-
have a paper sign in here for people attending in person also. It's just standard for us. Anyone has the right to attend a public meeting, but they also have to sign in.
Okay, so you're saying it's required to sign in, and if you do not sign in, you cannot attend the public meeting. Is that right?
Yep.
Online, yes.
And in person.
And in
really.
person, really, but we're not doing Facebook for these meetings, but sometimes if it's on Facebook,
Facebook
people
shut
can
down
just.
on the live streaming.
Oh, they did shut down. Okay, we used to have Facebook and then people could join anonymously, but we do require sign in for these meetings.
They are posted to YouTube.
Yeah, they are on YouTube if people want to, but that doesn't mean they can join in live.
Well, but what are they gonna do? Speak anonymously?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I'll just let him know, but he was under the impression
Yeah,
he
it does
didn't have to.
require a
All right.
name and yeah, just so we know who's online.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Hi again, it's Kate. I have another question. I don't know where this was supposed to go, but I was wondering if there was any update in the neighborhood about the West Harlem, the WHDC, the Development Corporation, the one that was started by Columbia. And it seems to have the people that were working with HDFCs and affordable housing in the neighborhood no longer seem to be there. And I was just wondering if there was a new contact or some other update, or if there was any idea of what was happening in terms of strategy at the organization next.
I was appointed to that board at the end of last month, maybe. And we are currently looking and evaluating what the strategy should be in the new circumstances. So I will, and I am expecting to play a part in that conversation because of the experience that I have with HDFCs. So when I have an update, I can give it to you, but currently, to my knowledge, there is not a new point person for the HDFC Center.
Okay.
But you could always reach out to the executive director of the Development Corp.
I saw Sean put something into propose some legislation about an HDFC thing. I just saw that randomly on email, but.
Yeah, he proposed to have an office in HPD to deal with HDFCs.
Got it.
Which I think exists,
Which already
but it's
exists.
not in the city charter.
Okay. All right.
It does exist, yes, but I was more interested in, yeah, the Columbia
Yep.
funded
Understood.
organization, yeah. And I mean, I would very much encourage you to reach out to UHAB and work with them to think through what the they're very familiar with what the needs are for HDFCs in this community, and would be incredibly helpful, I think, at giving some good strategy ideas. But I think a lot of the HDFCs here would also be really open to providing some feedback and ideas for, you know, thinking through.
Well, this is theoretically the purpose for UHAB's existence, but we have had the experience that the community board has observed with UHAB and HDFCs is that as long as UHAB is receiving HDFCs that get foreclosed on to run them, they have conflicting interests about whether or not they want HDFCs to succeed or get foreclosed on. So they do have deep, long experience in that, but we've heard mixed reviews from people who have UHAB as their required monitor for their HDFC in terms of how much they're really getting serviced by UHAB. And also there is the issue that UHAB doesn't really help distressed HDFCs because instead they just take their property.
Okay, well, we are not I do not live in a distressed HDFC. UHAB is not, I don't have a regulatory agreement. They're not our appointed monitor. We use them strictly for help to, you know, get connected to services like MEP or, you know, other incentivized programs that exist in the city. And I've had really terrific experiences with them. I can understand where, from your position, they would be more controversial, but I would certainly love to provide one HDFC's perspective of what the needs are in a building here in the neighborhood, given all the local laws and just the amount of complications that we face within you know, New York City.
Definitely, and that will be very appreciated as someone who is going to be thinking about what the future of that HDFC center should look like for the neighborhood and how best to help HDFCs. So your feedback and input will be very, very important.
Okay, is there, how do I stay in touch?
Can I put my email in the chat, or if you want to, it's just Barry J. Weinberg.
Yep, Barry's email is going to go into the chat here.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate that. Yeah, our HDFC is very active, and so we would love to.
Whereabouts is your HDFC? You said Hamilton Heights?
We're in the corner of 141 and Hamilton Place.
Oh yeah, okay. That's not like 100 or 110 Hamilton, is it?
No, 98.
98, okay.
Okay, Barry's email's in the chat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy to talk offline and meet and go through stuff in more detail.
We would love that.
And congratulations on not being in distress and not having a regulatory agreement.
Well, not yet. I mean, it's a steep slope and one that I feel like we're always right near, but we are not there yet.
It's hard to get unified sometimes too in the buildings. So we get it. All right, barring any other business, a call for adjournment.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Very second. So we are adjourned. Our next meeting is April 8th. We hope to see you there. Thank you for being a part of the conversation and joining us. There's a lot going on in this community and we appreciate you all showing up to the table. So thank you so much. Have a great week. week.
Guys, thanks for your time. Thanks for giving your time, and thanks for being a part of a healthy community. Thanks so much.
Please
Thank
share any of the information with your neighbors and encourage
Yeah,
them to.
this meeting will be up on YouTube, if you want to see Barry's passionate speeches again.
We should have the staff.
Hopefully, leave you.
Oh, by the way, what's your name? The young lady.
Oh, you might have been gone at the very beginning when we did
Yeah.
introductions. I'm Signe Mortensen. I am co-chair along with Liz Whitetakis. Barry is on our committee, but also first vice chair of the board. And we have Clayton on the committee. Clayton's a relatively new member. Juan is on the committee. Who's been with us a few years now. And Annette is in the room with us here, and she's been on for a long time. Annette Robinson. We're all on the committee.
Thanks again.
Of course. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Wait, Annette,
Yeah,
before you sign that,
before I do this. I'm not trying to understand. I was just over here.
Receive the emails.
So you set?
Yeah.
Put you on the list, you sign in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll put you on.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let me take a quick picture of it. Yeah, I know.